So, a boy walks into the woods. No punchline. That's literally how Limbo starts. And somehow, it's scarier than any horror movie I watched as a kid. Welcome to Indie Game Chronicles, and today we're diving into Playdead's 2011 masterpiece, Limbo. It's gloomy, it's strange, and yes, it made me think twice about walking barefoot in the dark. Limbo isn't just a spooky little platformer. It's one of those games that showed the world what indie developers were capable of. The game made people realize that a tiny studio with a bold idea could stand shoulder to shoulder with the giants of the industry. So, let's crawl under the shadows and explore why this black and white fever dream still sticks with us more than a decade later. By the way, here's a piece of audio of the first time I saw the giant spider. Fuck hell, what the hell was that? I almost myself. The first thing anyone remembers about Limbo is its look. Black and white, heavy shadows, and a grainy filter that makes it feel like you're watching an old film. There are no menus, no tutorials, no text on screen telling you what to do. The game literally just drops you in. 1 second, your character wakes up in a forest. The next, you're moving through the world, solving puzzles, and avoiding very unpleasant deaths. And that's important, because Limbo doesn't hold your hand. It doesn't explain itself. The world just exists, and you have to figure it out. And honestly, that's where the magic is. It feels like you're trespassing in a place you don't belong. Every environment, the forest, the spider's lair, the crumbling city, feels hostile. There are no friendly faces, no warm lights, just you, the boy, and the world that seems to actively hate you. It's not a long game. It took me about 3 hours and I died a lot of times. But it's the kind of game that gets under your skin. The story is deliberately vague. You never really know who the boy is, why he is in Limbo, or what he's looking for. Some people say it's about searching for his sister. Others say it's a metaphor for death, grief, or guilt. But Playdead never confirmed any of it. They left it up to interpretation, which, in game design terms, is bold, because it means the atmosphere has to do all the heavy lifting. And atmosphere is where Limbo shines. The sound design is minimal, just footsteps, crunching dirt, and the occasional unsettling creak. There's barely any music, only ambient tones. The silence makes the game feel alive, in a very uncomfortable way, like the world is watching you, waiting for you to slip up. Now, let's talk about how it actually plays. Limbo is a puzzle platformer, but not in the Mario way. It's slow, deliberate, and honestly pretty cruel. You'll run into physics-based puzzles involving boxes, ropes, gravity, and electricity. But what makes it stand out is how the game uses death as a teacher. And when I say death, I mean brutal, no holds barred death. The boy can be impaled by spikes, crushed by machines, or literally ripped apart by a giant spider. The first time you see it, it's shocking. But then you realize it's intentional. The game is designed so you will die, a lot. And every time you die, you learn something new. Maybe the ground wasn't solid. Maybe that silhouette wasn't a branch. It was a bear trap. Maybe pulling that lever a little too fast sends a crate smashing down on your head. This idea that failure is part of progress is baked into Limbo's DNA. It expects you to die. The checkpoints are generous, so you're never replaying huge sections, but the world constantly forces you to pay attention. It's not just about reflexes, it's about observation. And as a developer, I love how elegant this is. There's no clutter, no UI screaming at you, no tutorial pop-ups. The entire game is communicated through level design. That's an incredible lesson for anyone making games. Sometimes the best tutorial is simply letting players experiment and discover. Limbo was developed by Playdead, a Danish studio founded in 2006 by Arndt Jensen and Dino Patti. Jensen was the creative lead, and he originally pitched Limbo as this haunting, black and white side-scroller. At the time, indie games were starting to get attention thanks to hits like Braid and World of Goo. But nothing looked like Limbo. The development was tough. Playdead was a tiny team, fewer than 10 people at the start. Funding was also a challenge. In the early days, they got some support from the Danish Film Institute, which, yes, actually gives grants to video games the way some countries fund movies. So, the first time we see Limbo is in 2010 on Xbox Live Arcade as part of Microsoft's Summer of Arcade promotion. And that's huge, because back then, digital storefronts were still pretty new. Getting your game featured on Xbox was like hitting the jackpot. Limbo sold over 300,000 copies in its first month, which was insane for a little indie at the time. By 2011, it had spread to PlayStation, PC, and eventually everything else. The reception was overwhelming. Critics praised the art style, the atmosphere, and the puzzle design. It won awards from BAFTA, EGF, and pretty much every indie category you can think of. And more importantly, it put Playdead on the map as one of the most interesting studios in the world. Here's where Limbo really earns its place in history, because it wasn't just a good indie game. It changed the way people thought about what indie games could be. Before Limbo, indie games were often seen as quirky experiments or budget-friendly alternatives to the real games from big studios. But Limbo was artistic, polished, and emotionally impactful. It wasn't about high scores or flashy graphics. It was about mood, interpretation, and making players feel something. This paved the way for other narrative-driven indie hits. Games like Journey, Inside, Fats, and later Celeste all built on the idea that small teams could create experiences just as meaningful than blockbuster titles. In fact, Playdead themselves followed up Limbo with Inside in 2016, which took the same DNA and expanded it into something even more ambitious. Limbo also influenced design philosophy. Its minimalist approach to storytelling, no dialogue, no cutscenes, no text, became a template for atmospheric indie games. Developers realized you didn't need to explain everything. Sometimes leaving gaps for players to fill in makes the experience stronger. And let's not ignore the marketing side. Limbo proved that digital platforms could turn small indies into massive hits. Without Xbox Live Arcade's spotlight, it might have been just another niche release. Instead, it became a showcase for why digital distribution mattered. That ecosystem eventually gave us the thriving indie scene we know today on Steam, Switch, and beyond. Now, speaking as an indie developer, I have to say Limbo is both inspiring and intimidating. Inspiring because it shows what's possible with a clear vision. Intimidating because, let's be honest, not everyone can pull off a minimalist black and white puzzle game and make it global hit. There are a few lessons we can steal from Playdead though. First, constraints can be powerful. By limiting themselves to black and white, they created a style that stood out instantly. Second, gameplay and storytelling don't always need to be separate. In Limbo, the puzzles, the deaths, and the environment all tell the story together. And third, polish matters. Limbo feels tight because every little detail is deliberate. The way the boy moves, the way the spider reacts, the weight of physics objects, nothing feels loopy. That kind of polish takes time, testing, and iteration. Let's make a small recap. Limbo wasn't just a platformer about a boy in a dark, hostile world. It was a statement. It showed that indie games could be art, that they could compete on the same stage as big budget titles, and that sometimes the simplest ideas hit the hardest. So, what did you think about Limbo? Did you love it, hate it, or did the spider still haunt your dreams like it did mine? Let me know in the comments. Thanks for watching.